It's Michael Popok, Legal AF, and the hits just keep on coming for Donald Trump. First, he loses an attempt to bring in a key witness in his New York civil fraud case because he was late in making the request and he asked for the wrong person. Then a judge in the District of Columbia rules that he's not going to be able to go on a fishing expedition to look for missing documents from the Jan 6 committee that aren't really missing. And now Judge McAfee in Georgia has decided to allow the primary or one of the primary co-conspirator, former lawyers for Donald Trump, an indicted felon himself, come on down, Ken Chesebro. You get to go on a whistle-stop tour of all the other jurisdictions that are investigating Donald Trump's use of fake electors to try to cling to power because Judge McAfee has given you a permission slip as a way to modify your probation conditions to go to states outside of Georgia and go talk to those prosecutors and investigators. So here's what happened. There's a series of investigations that are ongoing. You know, for those that think Donald Trump only has the current cases to worry about, whether they be civil cases or they're criminal cases around the country. In New York, there's several cases, civil and criminal. In the District of Columbia, criminal. In Georgia, criminal. He's got other potential exposure in other states, primarily for their use of the fake electors, because the way that Donald Trump tried to cling to power is he actually picked up the phone. First time in his career, I think. He didn't have a buffer between him and a bad set of conduct and decided to make a call to pressure elected officials, election officials, speakers of the House in various battleground states and legislators to try to convince them to let him cling to power and to recognize these fake electors. The fake electors, the midwife for this ridiculous scheme, of this birth of this scheme, was Ken Chesebro on one side in the delivery room, and John Eastman, the constitutional half scholar, on the other. So of course, in the remaining battleground states like Nevada, Arizona, and of course the District of Columbia, which means Jack Smith, special prosecutor, people want to talk to Ken Chesebro in person. He's already a convicted felon. He's already pled guilty, given a proffer. The one video testimony we didn't see that was leaked was Ken Chesebro. I wonder why. Maybe because it wasn't very helpful to Donald Trump. I mean, the others weren't. The other leaked videos in Georgia weren't really helpful for Donald Trump either. But Ken Chesebro, I got to believe, really dumped on Donald Trump. And therefore, the other prosecutors, the attorney generals in Arizona and Nevada, I know Michigan probably down in the future, want to talk to Mr. Chesebro, spend a little time with him, right? Kick the tires, spill a little tea, have some coffee, talk about Donald Trump and all of the crimes that have been committed. And this had to go before Judge McAfee because when you're a felon and you have the conditions of your release granted and imposed on you by, in this case, a state criminal court judge, you got stuff to do. You can't own a firearm anymore. Can't vote. Felons have their right to vote taken away. Got to check in regularly with the probation department. You might even be limited during the course of this Georgia case that'll go on 2024, maybe beyond. You might have to stay tethered to the state, right? Ball and chain, so to speak, literally. Or you got to go to the judge and ask for permission to leave the state. Now, a lot of felons, try to argue, they'll do it for personal reasons. I got a daughter getting married. I got a grandson or granddaughter being born. There's some major once in a lifetime event I've got to attend. And then it's up to the judge, thumbs up or thumbs down. Here, this is towards the administration of justice. This is Judge McAfee recognizing in granting the new conditions on his probation, on Chesebro's probation, to allow him to go to Nevada to meet with the Nevada Attorney General, to go to the other battleground states to meet with their top law enforcement officials, and to meet with Jack Smith. Even though it's a one-page, two-line order, when you see the District of Columbia as a place where the judge in Georgia is allowing Ken Chesebro to go, it's not to take an official tour of the White House or go see what's happening at the Smithsonian. It is to meet with the special counsel Jack Smith. So let me interpret those runes for you, right? Interpret those tea leaves. That means, may I have permission to go to the special counsel's office in D.C. and completely dump on Donald Trump and be a cooperating witness for the government, the Department of Justice? And Judge McAfee said, you may. And may I go to Arizona and Nevada and do the same for the attorney generals investigating the use of the fake electors and the involvement of Donald Trump and others? You may. That's the result of the order that just came out. I'm chuckling a bit because, Donald Trump, if he was a grand chess master, which he claims to be, where he always sees 5 moves ahead. I could have stopped the war in Ukraine from starting. What's going on in the Middle East would not have happened on my watch. I have the way to solve the economy. I know how to fix COVID. Everything is in his head. If he could see more than 1 inch in front of his nose, he would have realized that having 15 or 16 co-conspirators, the top quarter of which are former lawyers for him, all cut in different deals that he can't control. There's only so many levers your hands can move in this giant machinery that we call the justice system. He would have realized that was a terrible thing for him, and that not controlling people like Ken Chesebro would allow them to flip. Now, you can critique and criticize and intimidate witnesses like Jenna Ellis, Ken Chesebro, Sidney Powell, all the attorney generals that ever worked under Donald Trump, all the lawyers that ever worked under him in the White House, all the private lawyers that ever worked for him, all the outside auditors and forensic firms he hired to try to find fraud when there wasn't any. But come on, we're into, what if everyone is wrong and you're the only one that's right? That's a land of magical thinking that juries and judges don't operate in. They operate in the black and white world of evidence, testimony, circumstantial evidence, your conduct, how you operate, the things you say and do contemporaneously with the events, which demonstrate your intent, your mens rea, your criminal mind. And so he can say what he wants, Trump, in campaign rallies and social media postings ad nauseum. It really is ad nauseum at this point. And he might think he's winning the trial of the streets, right? He's winning the hearts and minds of people in the streets, but where he's losing is where it matters, to his justice, to his liberty, and to our democracy. And that's in the courtrooms of America, in Georgia, in the state court criminal system, in the District of Columbia, federal, New York state criminal. We're watching what happens inside the wood-paneled rooms of the justice system. And it's much to his chagrin. That's why Donald Trump is acting out and, like any infant, throwing food and whatever comes out of his diaper at people, hoping something will stick. Because he's frustrated by the evidence that has been developed against him. He thinks the evidence is a 4-letter word, but it's not, right? It's the eternal weapon of the prosecutors. Witnesses, documents, emails, communications, money flow, right? These are the things that make cases and win them for prosecutors. Social media posting of the person that you have indicted in his own words, because this guy can't stop talking, even if it means people being put in harm's way and possibly grievous bodily injury, harm, or death. And so I started the hot take with a chuckle, but I'm ending it on a serious and somber note. There will be a trial of Donald Trump in 2024 on the criminal justice system. Could be state, could be federal, certainly could be both. And at that time, don't be distracted by the circus that comes to town with Donald Trump. We'll have to sit in the courtroom and not in federal court, at least go out and hold press conferences at every break that he feels like having. The case will be tried where it should be tried, in a courtroom with a judge and a jury. It may be public, depending upon which state it's public trial with YouTube and all that, or federal doesn't allow it because of the solemnity and the dignity of the process. We don't want to make a circus out of it any more than it needs to be. And there will be a parade of witnesses coming through the back door of that courtroom maybe coming through the side door where they bring in criminals who are already in the criminal justice system, like people that have already pled guilty and are awaiting sentencing. But there will be witnesses, all of them Republicans, all of them people at one time that Donald Trump admired, honored, hired, vetted, listened to, didn't listen to. But Republicans, they all have an R next to their name. No Democrats coming through that door. It's all Republicans. And we'll have to have a drinking game of how many former attorney generals for Donald Trump testify against him. Acting attorney generals, replacement attorney generals, deputy attorney generals, acting deputy attorney generals, one after the other in front of a jury. How many lawyers for Donald Trump are going to testify against Donald Trump? The first month or two of the trial, you could just do former attorney generals and lawyers for Donald Trump and not touch another category of witness. White House counsel, deputy White House counsel, acting deputy White House counsel, right? Then the parade of convicted, soon to be convicted, indicted, bar license losing, or about to lose their bar license lawyers for Donald Trump. Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Ken Chesebro, right? Ray Smith, Jim Trupis, and the list goes on. Then you get to the others on that next ring, testifying against him, cooperating with the government. And so the split screen of the reality of what the trial against Donald Trump's going to look like, led by people like Ken Chesebro, and the fantasy and magical thinking world, the conspiracy-driven MAGA world that goes on in the streets, it's not going to matter when the wooden doors of the courtroom close. And if Donald Trump's ever going to see the light of day again, as opposed to going through a metal door into a federal detention center and then onto a prison, he better wake up, recognize the consequences, and try to cut a plea deal. It's just that his ego and his narcissism that got him into this mess won't allow him to cut the deal that's right for America and agree that he committed felonies and agree to some sort of incarceration. And so he's going to put the United States through, right, this trial. He's going to drag the United States through his litter box and through his trial and force us to see it in a way that even Richard Nixon and others were too embarrassed or too, even at the final moments of Watergate, committed to the American dream and patriotism that they would never subject themselves or the American people to it, and went off and into the night, sulked off into the night. But not this guy. So we'll continue to follow on one place only, Legal AF on the MeidasTouch network. Help them get to 2 million free subscribers. They're so close. I keep looking. They're getting closer. Within the next couple of months, they're going to be at 2 million because of you. And the bigger they get, because they don't have outside investors, they're an independent media organization, grassroots, if you will. The bigger they get with free subscriptions and other ways to support the group, the more your voice is heard and resonates. And if you like what we're doing here on hot takes like this one, at the intersection of law, politics, and justice, join us for our curated podcast on Wednesday and Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, called, wait for it, Legal AF. It's exactly what you think. Wednesdays, I do it with Karen Friedman, Nick Nifolo. Saturdays, I do it with Ben Mycelis. And then you can get it on audio podcast platforms wherever you get your audio podcasts from. Leave a thumbs up. It helps with the ratings. Leave a comment, even better. And until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.